Hello, guys. I think I am live. I hope you can hear me. How are you today? How is your Sunday? I hope it's all going well. My Sunday has been a little bit busy in terms of church at first, and then obviously I actually started filming today as well. So yeah, I haven't managed to enjoy the sun as much as I would like to, so I'm hoping to do that tomorrow. But if you are joining me, hopefully you can hear me, and please feel free to let me know in the chat as well. I don't think I'll be on live for too long. I think I was only going to do probably about half an hour, just to really catch up as well, see how you guys are doing and see if you've got any questions for me. The main reason is also because I realized obviously I didn't do a live last month, so I have been, trying to make sure that I do one this month, and then realised that actually it was almost the end of May as well. So I've been trying to make sure that I still managed to do this live if I could. So hopefully some of you have been able to join me. I know it was relatively short notice, but I hope you guys are all okay. In terms of sort of what happened last month, the main reason is because of, I guess, I'm trying to sort out my moving situation, and it's just been so long. I think just trying to even finding a place to rent, I never realized how much work it takes and what people were asking for. So whenever you'd go to like not estate agents, like letting agents, they weren't just asking for, what kind of bedrooms are you looking for? They would essentially ask for a load of different things. So it's been a little bit stressful in that area, and that's what's probably been a lot of quite time consuming, to be honest. But it's all okay. I'm just gonna look on the chat because I can't actually, yeah, that's it. Oh, thank you, Samuel. I love how mindful you are. You should do a video on wellness and having a more simple life without screens and social media. Yes, this is something that I'd say I'm not 100% perfect at the moment though, but it's something that I've probably been working on over the past couple of years, I would say. So some of you may know that when I started paying off my debt, I actually kind of deactivated myself from social media, so I didn't have things like Instagram, Snapchat, anything like that. I mean, I did have WhatsApp, but I wasn't using it very often, and it was only because I really wanted to focus on sort of paying off my debt and just learning all things about personal finance. I mean, I did have YouTube, but even with that, I made sure that I consumed content that was around that personal finance, personal development kind of area first, before looking at anything else. So that's kind of really where I focused on, and to me it's kind of made me think that I'm a bit more content with life, I would say, just not having as much stuff anymore. And I think I'm just really thankful to have that opportunity, because it means that I don't really need that much stuff as well. And even with social media now, I'm not actually on social media very often. They're only on things like Instagram. I will go on because of obviously trying to put out like posts and being a bit more interactive on my story, but I really struggle with it because I'm so used to not having Instagram anymore. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing in terms of social media. But yeah, I'm definitely happy to do a video on that soon. But yeah, how are you guys? Hope you are having a good Sunday. Hope you're enjoying the weather. I assume most people are probably still outside enjoying the weather because yeah, it still looks really bright. I mean, I didn't even need to use my lights because usually I've got like studio lights sort of at the back, but actually the light is coming in through the sun, so I thought I would just use that. But what I did want to talk about is kind of again my moving situation, just trying to give you guys some tips to just make sure that your finances are in check, because yeah, people were just asking for your income, and it was so interesting because they wouldn't just ask for my partner and my income. They wouldn't just say what's your household income. They'd actually ask, okay, what's your household income, but what's your individual income and what's his individual income, and are you both working, and are you full-time permanent staff? So yeah, it was really interesting. Hi Double D. My name's Veronia, by the way, but yeah, that's probably a slight mistake. But yeah, hope you are doing well. But yeah, it was just really interesting. And even when we did go to apply for, you know, like getting trying to offer someone, you know, for a flat, being aware that it's not even buying a flat, because Lord knows how it would be like buying one. But even with that, you know, we had so many people actually that were trying to also offer to rent that place as well, and being aware that we were looking for, I think we probably went to more than 10 places, and it was just so competitive. And even with like the people that would off, if you were to offer someone like a landlord, you would then have to say, okay, we're going to offer this, but you'd also have to give up all these details in terms of your income, where's the income coming from, your credit report. So I had to send a screenshot. No, I had to like print out my credit report and send that as well. Then one of them was even asking for my credit score, because apparently the credit report wasn't enough. And so it was things like that. So it was just really interesting, and obviously things like your bank statements as well. So yeah, it was really interesting. Hi, hello, hope you're well. I'm kind of streaming from my phone, so it's really weird because it does, the chat doesn't really stay. But hi Safia, hope you're doing well. Hope you're both doing well. And yeah, so just in terms of even renting a place, and I think it's very similar in terms of whether you're buying a place or now renting a place. Obviously, it might just be because we were looking around the London area, which is a lot more competitive maybe, but I would even just say make sure your finances are in check, even if you're buying a place or renting a place, because yeah, I think especially after, you know, the pandemic and things like that, and obviously people losing their jobs, I think maybe landlords are kind of scrutinizing people a lot more, and they're just making sure that, you know, people can afford to keep paying the rent and things like that. So I would definitely say make sure you're checking your credit report, see if you can obviously increase your credit score if you can. I'm going to be having a video on that, I think not next week but the week after, so definitely check that out. So hopefully it helps you. But yeah, just making sure, you know, if you've got income coming in, can you also afford to, you know, pay rent or pay your mortgage, for example. So I would definitely, if you can, get your finances in check before you start applying for places, because yeah, it took us a good few weeks to get that done. But you know, luckily we've actually managed to find the place, which is good. So that's kind of why this has also been, it's been a bit higgledy-piggledy, because yeah, we're now trying to sort out moving and stuff. Safia says, I'm currently searching for a house too, and it's extremely hard to get a place for the reason you just mentioned. Yeah, honestly, and to be honest, I don't even want to think about how it would be if you're trying to buy a place. I do see that we are kind of in boom territory in terms of it's very competitive just to buy a house. And I think the type of house as well is really interesting. So if you're looking for somewhere that's maybe not in central London, for example, or that's you know, kind of got an area or space, or that has a garden, things like that, people were really interested to just want to snap it up. And I think like places are going like that, it's just so quick. So you know, if you're trying to buy a house, just try and obviously make sure you're doing your research, but it is competitive, and obviously with things like the stamp duty, it is getting quite tough. So it's going to really depend on what you're looking for. I feel like actually if you're looking for maybe flats, for example, it might be a little bit easier just because you might not have that much space. So maybe if you're looking for flats, that could be you could potentially get something relatively soon. But I think if you're trying to buy a house, it might be a little bit tough. So just obviously make sure you're doing your research and just hang on in there, because even with just trying to rent a place, it's just been absolutely crazy. So yeah. Hi Emily, just set up my investment ISA while still at uni, time to make those early gains. Oh my gosh, well done Emily. Do you know what? If I could start investing at university, you know, you can't, yeah, it's kind of like a regret that I have, but obviously you kind of learn from your regrets. But you're honestly in a great position to start investing, and because you have so much time as well to let all of your gains just compound, I think you're going to do really well. So definitely, you know, have fun doing it, enjoy it whilst you can, and obviously make sure that you know about the different volatility that can happen with the stock market particularly, just so that you are a bit more comfortable with risk as well and things like that. So yeah, good luck on your investing journey, and I hope you enjoy it. Nathan says, on average in the UK, how much do you think people save a month? Love your channel. Keep up the amazing work. Oh, thank you, Nathan. So in terms of how much I think people save, I think it's an interesting one. I think you have a group of people that are pretty much savers, and they basically save quite a high amount of their income. So I would probably say, if I'm thinking sort of higher, I'd say more than 20%. If you're saving more than 20% of your income, I feel like you're probably in a slightly higher bracket. And then there are obviously some people that have zero savings and don't save at all. And then there may be some people sort of in the middle that maybe save a little bit. Maybe they save like under 10%. Or maybe they just save, like sporadically. So they may save a couple of months and then not save for the rest of the year. So in terms of, I think to be honest, I have seen from research that the majority of people don't necessarily save money. I do think though that the pandemic has helped. So I think I found people actually starting to save their money during the pandemic, especially if you have nowhere to spend it, then you may as well save money. I think what will be interesting is what happens after lockdown eases, particularly obviously in the UK. But if those same people will still have those savings, or are they just going to run rampant and start spending all of their life savings? So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. Time will tell. We probably won't know maybe until like the next year or like the year after that. But yeah, it'll be really interesting. But if you currently only started saving during the pandemic, please guys, please, I am begging you, just make sure you watch your spending, especially if you are in the UK and you know that lockdown is easing soon. Of course, you do want to have fun and you want to enjoy life, and I want to enjoy life as well, but just be conscious of your spending, because yeah, you can easily just end up, everything that you've kind of saved over the past year could literally just deplete and just be eradicated, just because you've got all this emotional spending that's come up. So I would just say make sure you're just being conscious of your spending, but I'm not saying not to spend money at the same time, so just make sure I put that out there. Safia, I wish I invested in uni as well. Exactly, too busy spending money on useless clothes. Me, it was holidays, to be honest. Let's not talk about that, but that's something that I used to do, which I definitely regret. So if you're at university right now, please do not spend it on, just clothes and holidays and things like that. If you can, obviously doing your research and your due diligence. If it was me, I would probably be investing, especially if I had the financial intelligence I have today. So definitely do that. Safia, apparently the average people in the UK don't have savings. Yeah, the majority of people will live paycheck to paycheck, and that's very similar to the UK and the US. Which is obviously quite sad, but again, I think we're kind of fueled by this spending culture. I think, the government does sometimes try to help in terms of encouraging people to save. So that's why you've got things like ISAs, and they obviously encourage people to start putting money into their pension. But again, it's going to be like the individual person that needs to think about, whether they actually want to save their money or if they want to just spend it all. So we'll see how it goes over the next few months. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing okay. How's your kind of Sunday doing? Are you planning to spend a lot during lockdown easing, if you're in the UK, or are you planning to save a bit more money? I don't think I'm gonna end up spending that much. I don't really see it, but I think I probably will adjust the budget though, just because I know that people will probably want to hang out and go outside and things like that. So I'll probably be a bit more conscious, but I will at the same time still want to enjoy it. So I would always say if you do want to spend money, and of course if you want to go out to lockdown, just kind of plan for it, put it in your budget. If you have a budget, I do hope that you guys that are watching me have a budget. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be okay, but we'll see over the next few months. Hopefully I'm planning to also share our budget, hopefully when I get married, so that you guys can see sort of what our essential bills are like, and in terms of how we kind of save our money with the essential bills plus rent and things like that, because utility bills and rent are not cheap. But yeah, that will probably be over the next couple of months, because we are still sort of sorting out everything, and yeah, everything's just kind of being put in place at the moment. Hello Eva, I'm not planning to spend more during the lockdown easing. Well, I had planned a trip with friends last year, and I hope we will be able to make it this year. Yes, exactly. I think I'm in a similar position in terms of I'm not really planning to go out that much to spend that much money. I feel like it will be just kind of a normal transition, so I don't necessarily see myself spending that much money. But Anyway, we will see, because yeah, in London things are expensive. They're not very cheap in London, unfortunately. So yeah, there's only gonna it's I don't think I want to go out that often, but yeah, we'll see. But there's always free things to do as well, especially in London. There's actually, you'll be surprised at a lot of free things that you can do, and not even just in London. If you live maybe near like any major city, or even just going out to the park, having a picnic, that's not going to cost that much money. So yeah, I'd definitely be doing things like that. Hopefully, if the weather is all okay, because I know this week it's quite nice. So hopefully, you know, during the other summer months that we'll have some good weather and we can just do things outside. I haven't been watching my spending, but seeing this has reminded me of why I wanted to be money conscious and not be stupid with money. I would love to see your budget as a couple. Yes, yes, I know. That's what yeah, I'm hoping to do that. Yeah, over the next couple of months, just need to sort out a few tweaks and, you know, kind of get everything together. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I'd be interested actually, do you guys think, if you have a partner, or if you do have a partner, would you want to join all of your finances together? Do you think it should be kept separate? Let me know what your I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, because yeah, I've heard sort of different opinions in terms of some people saying that they basically join everything. Some people say that they split like the spending, for example, they have their own spending stuff going on, and then there are some people that completely, you know, split out everything. So I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are. Yes, exactly, Eva. It's London is very, very expensive just for a lot of things, not even just rent and bills and stuff, but actually even if you want to leave the house, it's quite expensive. I haven't been as money conscious these last 2 months, but I plan to be going forward. I think it's the excitement of things opening up. Yeah, Samuel, I know. And I think especially because we've been inside for so long, and if you haven't been able to spend that much money, I think the best thing that you want to do is be able to like go out and maybe go to a restaurant, or, you know, go anywhere, or even just do like different activities. So, you know, I think that there are going to be people that are just itching to spend their money. So I'm just kind of, yeah, encouraging you guys to maybe think about how much you're going to spend. But I always say, just if you plan it, then at least you know that you're being intentional with it, rather than actually just going out and just spending everything. So, you know, it really depends on how you see it. But, you know, if you're planning out your finances, you've planned out how much you're going to spend, then I don't really see a problem with any of that. It's great. Before, when I used to go to London, I'd always look for free things to do there. Yep, exactly. It's great to do things for free, although the virus, I don't know how it will continue in the future. Yeah, it's a really good point. I'm not sure, you know, what things are going to be free and what isn't, especially if you still do have social distancing. So I'm not really sure what's going to be happening there. We'll just, I guess, have to see what other companies are doing, what are they offering, because they always used to be sort of in London. We used to go to like these different food markets as well, and even if you didn't buy a load of the food, it was just nice sitting down there, especially, you know, if it's a nice sunny day like today. So yeah, hopefully we will get some free things, but we will have to see. A11, learning about stock investing this month and opening up an ISA soon. The next month actually starts investing in ETFs and dividend stocks. Thanks thanks, as your info helped me so much. Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, good luck on your investing journey. And I always say, I think the hardest thing is just really getting started. I think once you actually start investing, it's a lot easier. Well, it was easier for me anyway, to kind of just keep going, and you still start learning. So even I still tend to learn. Even people that, you know, have been investing for years, they're still always learning as well. So, and that really depends on the route you take. So if you're looking at more, you know, index funds and ETFs, you're probably going to take more of a passive route. And so once you've kind of chosen your funds, you could basically just leave it there and just keep investing. But, you know, some people like me, I kind of like the active route a little bit as well, so I do kind of both. So with the active route, that takes a lot more learning and knowledge and just doing a lot more research. So yeah, it really depends on the route that you're going to take. But yeah, the best thing I would say is just get started, obviously doing your due diligence and research, because obviously I'm not what's it called again, financial advisor. Don't know why I forgot that. Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor, but yeah, just make sure you're doing your research, and yeah, let me know how it goes as well. Advice for growing up YouTube so I get monetized, please. So are you talking about getting ads on YouTube? So to be honest, I think you kind of just want to, it's really going to be about your audience, I would say. So if your audience likes your videos, and if they are clicking on your videos and they are watching your videos, then YouTube is more likely to actually, well, the algorithm is more likely to show your videos to other people. So I try to kind of rank in search. That's kind of what I tend to do. So I use a kind of browser, a plugin called TubeBuddy. I use that just to try and rank in search. And then, yeah, when people sort of click on my videos, hopefully they like it and they watch it, and if they engage with it, so give them a thumbs up or comment, then YouTube is more likely to push my videos out, and then that will enable you to get to monetization a bit quicker. So from memory, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and then obviously a couple of other guidelines that you have to go through, but those are the two main ones. So if you can beat that, then yeah, you'll essentially hopefully get monetized. Particularly just make sure that you don't have any sort of copyright things on your channel, or strikes or anything like that. But yeah, apart from that, you should be fine. Eva, about couples splitting the bills. 50-50 is only good if both members of the couple earn exactly the same salary. It's much better to calculate and split it by percentages depending on the salary. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting take, because I do wonder, you know, how many couples actually earn the same salary or very similar. But then I also wonder sort of what happens if you're kind of keeping everything separate. How do you manage it if, for example, someone decides to take time off because they want to look after the kids, which means that they may not be working as much, or they may be working part-time? What kind of happens to the finances there? So I'd be interested to know sort of how people have navigated through that. I mean, I don't know if you guys currently have kids or if that's kind of happened to you, so definitely let me know. I think most people in my audience, they're kind of in their mid-20s, so they may not have started, some of them may not have started families yet. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see how you kind of navigate through that, and whether there's any tension there as well. Yes, getting started is the hardest. It's better to learn to handle my money now from my job, yep, than when I have an increase of money later on from a side hustle. It will be a blessing and not a curse. Yes, exactly. This is kind of why I'm so passionate in terms of just really setting your financial foundation first, because my worry is that if you start increasing your income and you start earning a lot more money, if you haven't built the habits of being able to, you know, control your money and actually save money, and, you know, whether you're paying off your debt or start investing or things like that, if you haven't actually built those habits, it can be very difficult once you then get that increase in income, and it can end up being, you know, kind of going into things like lifestyle creep, for example. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of always, I'm always sort of advocating to, of course, increase income, but I'm always saying, you know, try and set your financial foundation so that when you do have that income coming in, that's when you can really use that to, of course, put your money in, put all your energy into, you know, paying off your debt, saving, investing. Because I think the fear that I have is some people that will start increasing their income, but then they end up spending it instead of actually, you know, pursuing their financial goals. So yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And it's probably a weird question, but, you know, how are you guys doing in terms of, you know, finances and like income? Is it, because with where I sort of work, I work in the hospitality industry, and in terms of jobs, we've been really struggling, I would say, sort of looking for people to come and work for us. So it's kind of weird that it's kind of shifted in terms of the job market. So now employers are actually really seeking job seekers a lot more. Even I think with the retail industry, that's sort of been happening as well. So, you know, it's been quite interesting to see the difference. So I don't know, you know, have people just decided to work in other industries and, for example, don't maybe see the retail or hospitality industry as safe, or, you know, maybe they're deciding you know, that they don't want to work for whatever reason. So yeah, I've kind of seen, that's really been interesting. That's kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit weird, but that kind of interests me when I do a bit of research in my spare time. So yeah. Eva, I cannot give you that much advice about splitting bills with your partner and kids. I've always split everything by percentages, but I don't have children, and that's a big difference. Yeah, it's a real big difference. I think it does kind of add complication with that. I mean, I will do a video probably in terms of what me and my partner are going to be, well, what we are going to be doing with our finances, because we've kind of already decided what we are doing. But yeah, I'll leave that for now, but I will do another video. And I know we do also still need to do a video talking about how we saved for our wedding as well, because I think that will be another interesting video. Can you make a video on ISA retirement options? It just depends on what you mean. So are you talking about, because in the UK specifically, most people probably refer to your pensions. In terms of ISAs, I mean, depends if you want me to talk more about like using a stocks and shares ISA versus a cash ISA, for example. Just, yeah, let me know what you mean. Eva, I was unemployed for almost 1 year and was afraid to go back to a job. I found a job that allows me to work from home. Oh, that's good that you've got the flexibility, Eva, because I think a lot of people have been looking for roles that allow you to work from home. And I wonder maybe whether that could potentially be why, you know, industries like the hospitality and retail aren't doing, or are kind of struggling with workers, because maybe people just really want to work from home. I know that I've been enjoying working from home, so yeah, it'll be interesting in terms of how that kind of goes forward, and you know, whether people will be going all the way, will they be going back to the office full time, or are they going to be doing like a hybrid approach? I think it'll be quite interesting to see. But yeah, glad to know that you've found the job and that you're working from home, so I'm hoping you're enjoying that role. Safia, I was working minimum wage and I saved a lot of money in the last 6 months thanks to you. Another financial advice investment on YouTube. Oh, great. I have a job that pays slightly more, so I'm happy. Oh, that's great to hear, Safia. Yeah, I think just, yeah, being able to actually save your money as well, especially whilst working minimum wage, you've basically set your foundation. So the fact that now you're getting a job that even pays more, you'll be able to obviously save more and just, you know, pursue your goals without having to go through, you know, that kind of lifestyle creep that people tend to have, you know, which isn't great. And I think it's so interesting that you see sort of people that are even earning 6 figures still living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of it is because of lifestyle creep, because the more money they get, then the more liabilities they end up getting. So you end up getting like a nicer car and a nicer house and things like that, which, not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but just making sure that you can actually afford it. Because I think the question I always have is, you know, if you were to lose this job today, then what would happen? Could you still afford to pay for, you know, all the things, all of your expenses and all the things you have? So that's really kind of what really changed my mindset, I think, just to make sure that everything that I get, I can actually afford. So yeah, that's something to always think about when you're maybe looking at, you know, different expenses, or if you want to get like a new car or a new house and things like that. Eva, yes, it would be great to see how you budget for your wedding. My brother got married 2 weeks ago and it was a very simple wedding because most family members couldn't attend. Yeah, no, we'll definitely be doing a video on that. I think, yeah, my partner's happy to be on camera, which is really nice. So we'll definitely do that. I mean, I will go through the mistakes I made, because there was one mistake that I made which I'm really ashamed of, and I'll mention that. I don't know, we will probably mention that in the video, but all I would say is, when it comes to planning for a wedding, just don't give in to family and peer pressure. That's all I'm gonna say, because yeah. But I'll do a separate video on that and talk about that in a bit more detail. But yeah, that's the one advice I would give right now. What are the scope for accountants in London? What do you mean by that question? If you just elaborate, do you mean sort of actually finding an accountant role in London? Because obviously that's going to depend on, I guess, the firm that you're looking for, the company that you're going to be looking for, and yeah, is that kind of job advice that you're looking for? I'm not sure. Let me know. Would be great to hear about wedding planning. Yes, yeah, no, we'll definitely do that. It's an interesting one, because I've not always been massive on kind of having that big wedding day, I would say. For some reason, I don't know. I think it's because, again, of like this personal finance journey that I've been going on. I think before I definitely would have been, but now I'm sort of kind of like, well, how much is it going to cost first, and is it going to sort of I guess, have a barrier towards our own potential financial goals. So I kind of had to think of it like that. So it's been an interesting ride, but yeah, no, we'll definitely do a video on that. I work at Amazon as a 19-year-old, and it's actually a decent company. I live at home with my parents, so that allows me to save a good amount every single month. Warehousing hasn't been affected much. Oh, that's great to hear. And at least, yeah, if you're living with your parents, that's good that you're able to sort of save the amount of money, especially at 19. So definitely well done. I think you're pretty much on a good financial footing, especially if you continue to kind of build those habits. I mean, yeah, me being able to stay at home has really helped, especially accelerate how much I've been able to save, and I think it's just helped me build those habits as well. But again, I was able to still save when I was living out, but it just depends where you live, because I was a lodger, and I'm not sure everyone would want to be a lodger, but sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. So yeah, I did, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So if you've been interested in becoming a lodger, maybe for like a year or a few months, could potentially do it. I mean, yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted, I would say that, but it's something that, if you're maybe single or just you're living on your own, could be a potential. Just saying. So yeah, job opportunities. Yes, either, yeah, you need to have an ACCA, and salaries vary a lot depending on what you were going to do. Yeah, I would say so. And it also depends, like, are you looking for graduate schemes? Are you looking for entry level roles, for example? I know that in sort of our industry, we would, yeah, people would probably push for like a graduate scheme, because then you can actually your company can actually pay for your qualification, for example, whereas with entry level they may want a bit more experience. So yeah, it also depends on how much experience you have. So hopefully that helps. It all started with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yep, exactly. So my mindset definitely completely changed because of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like, I would probably say it's one of the books that really, I guess, just changed my life. So if you haven't read that book, I would definitely recommend it. I usually put the description in like my videos, but yeah, it's a really interesting book, and I think it just opens your mind in terms of what actually wealthy people do and how they actually generate wealth compared to what we think people do to generate wealth. So yeah, it's a really interesting book. Obviously there are some things I think in the book that some people may not agree with. Yeah, there's some elements in the book some people may not agree with, but I think the fundamentals of it is just really great. So yeah, you can always just take it with a pinch of salt, and I think that's very similar with all books, I would say. So you don't have to believe in every single book that you're reading. So it just helps you kind of open up your mind, and then you can just come up with your own judgment, and obviously your own due diligence as well. I like history, and The Richest Man of Babylon was very good book from my point of view. Yes, exactly. I've read The Richest Man in Babylon as well. It's one of my books that I tend to recommend. Yeah, the language, I think just getting used to the language was a little bit hard at first, but it kind of obviously reminds me of like biblical times, and sometimes if you're reading like the Bible in, like King James Version, for example, it's kind of like that language. So yeah, I did kind of get used to it by the time I got to the end of the book. But again, they're very, very good principles, solid principles as well, that are really useful. Is it normally better to buy a product outright or spread the costs per month finance credit to save money? So I tend to, it really depends, because I tend to buy most of my products outright, especially in terms of, if you're talking about finance credit, usually you have to pay some form of interest on there. So you obviously would need to do your research. I personally, in terms of just kind of having that peace of mind, I tend to just buy things outright. So I know that I will probably plan for it. I'll save over like a few months, and then what I'll do is then just pay for it outright. But yeah, you'll have like some places where usually it's cheaper to buy it outright, but obviously if you physically can't, then that's obviously another situation, that's another story. But for me personally, I tend to buy things outright, especially things like insurance, for example, because I see that the interest rate can be relatively high with that. So I tend to just buy it for the year. But again, it just means that you have to plan sort of in advance, and just not kind of buy it now, unless you have the money. I mean, if you've got like a lot of money just sitting in your bank account and you can just buy it outright anytime, then yeah, that's different. But yeah, for me, I have to plan in advance in terms of, okay, what am I gonna need to buy over the year and how much is it likely to be, and then I just save up throughout the month. So I usually tend to do that with like my gym memberships. I used to do it with car insurance, but obviously my car got totaled, unfortunately, because of my car getting smashed by another person. But yeah, that's what I would usually do. But yeah, we all have a car anyway, so that's kind of, yeah, what I tend to do. And look for comparison sites as well, just to make sure you get a good price. I need to read that book, Eva, Who Took My Cheese, because that's been something where it's on my list, and I've really heard a lot of good reviews on that. So I need to read that book. It's definitely on my list. Okay, in terms of like career wise as well. Yeah, I definitely need to check that out. That's, yeah, something that I'll be doing. Yeah, that's true. A lot of by the etc. Yes. Yeah, a lot of that. May I ask, are you a Christian? Yes, I am a Christian. I think I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos, especially when I like pay my tithes and stuff. I've definitely mentioned that. So yes, I am a woman of faith. What's your thought on buying a house? So interesting question. My thoughts are buying a house. For me, it's as long as you can afford it. I have no problems with people buying a house. So the frustration I probably get is when people buy a house that's more than they can afford. And even though the bank tells them, oh, look, you can afford this, have you really looked at your finances to say, actually, can we still afford this and still be able to save, invest, pay off debt? In fact, actually, I would prefer to be debt free in terms of consumer debt before I would go into buying a house. For example, if it was me in this situation, I'd probably want to have an emergency fund, very similar to Dave Ramsey actually. So having an emergency fund, and yeah, not have any sort of high interest consumer debt. So I'm talking like credit card debt, car loans, personal loans, any of that stuff. I would prefer to have that financial foundation first before then buying the house. But then again, even when you're buying the house, you just want to think about, how much is it going to cost? Because even though, yes, you have the mortgage payment, you also have to think about maintenance as well. Because if the boiler breaks down, you're going to have to pay for it. If your roof collapses, you're also going to have to pay for it. So you just want to make sure that you can afford it. And yeah, but apart from that, like obviously depending on your situation as well and your own circumstances. But for me, I'm like happy to buy a house, and that's part of our plans as well. But I think the interesting thing is I also don't mind renting as well, depending on the personal circumstances. So if, for example, we're renting first because for us, it's to do with the flexibility and also the time as well. Because if we were to buy a house right now and we decided to actually move out of London, essentially we would have only been in that house for like a year. And when you account for all the costs and things like that, and for us, we'd have to pay stamp duty. Well, not now, but it's essentially you would have to pay stamp duty, for example. It just wouldn't make sense. So that's where sometimes renting can make sense if you're going to be there for the short term. But for example, if I'm looking for my family home, then I definitely would buy a house. But again, that's based on my personal circumstances. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. What do you think of interest-free finance such as Klarna, buy now, pay later? I'm not particularly a fan. The reason why is just because psychologically, if you are so used to paying the things that are interest-free, the company is going to need to make money somehow. So whether it's interest-free for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, what happens after that period? Do you like that? And that's why I'm quite passionate about it, because even though it may be interest free for a while, is it going to be interest free forever? And I think you just have to think about, what's your mindset going to be like if you always think that actually it's going to be interest free all the time, and then so you then end up financing your clothes and financing everything. Are you going to keep doing that? And for example, if you then end up getting a credit card, even though it may be interest free for a period of time, for example, what happens at the end of that term? And then you end up paying all of that interest. So for me, I'm not particularly a fan. I would rather just pay cash, to be honest, especially if it's things like clothes as well. Like I would just save up and pay cash. But yeah, that's kind of my view on it. Completely agree with you about buying the house you can afford. Yes, exactly. I bought in cash. Oh, do you know, that would be the dream. Inhabitable though. I'm saving money for a renovation work, a big financial goal. That is such a great goal though. The fact that you've been able to buy a house though in cash, for me, that's kind of been like an ultimate dream for me. I'd love to do it, because at least you know that, you know, the house is yours. You essentially own it. You own part of the land that's on it. So yeah, I think, yeah, again, just saving up, I guess, for the renovation work, which obviously will probably take time, it kind of sounds like. But I think once you've done that, Eva, I think you'll honestly just, you'll be laughing, because you'll be mortgage free, and yeah, you'll have like a fixed up house which is yours, which would be great. Interest free finance is even worse. They're getting you to spend money you don't have. If you can't buy something 4 times over, then you can't afford it. Exactly. For me, like, if you can't pay cash for it, then I'm sorry, you can't you can't afford it. Because I just, yeah, it's, I'd be interested to see how long their interest free period is, because they need to make money somehow. So I don't see how they can't make money from you know, just not charging interest at all. As soon as you started talking about the tithing and giving, I had the assumption it's also a good trait to have to implement in my finances. Thanks once again for touching on that. God bless. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's something where, you know, when it comes to finances, that's why I always say it's just not all about money. Like, there's things where your health is concerned, because, you know, if you're building all this wealth but you don't have the health to go with it, then, you know, it's kind of redundant. But then also, you know, whether it's your faith, and obviously even if you don't particularly have a faith, but just kind of having that spiritual aspect as well, and just that personal development, it just kind of all sort of links into one. So yeah, it's all about mindset. That's what I think. I'm renting at the moment and saving as much as I can to pay in cash the renovation works on my 300 years old house. That's amazing, Eva. And is that in this country, or is that somewhere else? I'd be really interested to know. What would be a decent salary for a couple to live in London? That would depend, because London is quite a big place, so it really depends on where you're living. So if you're more further central London, then you probably need quite a high. I don't know. It's also going to depend on your spending as well. So for example, because even though I at the moment earn under 35k, we're still able to stay in London and still save money as well, and that's probably just dependent on our kind of spending, and even when we go to rent money as well, not rent money, go to rent somewhere, we're still going to be able to save money. So it's going to really depend on, you know, your spending habits, where you're living as well, because we're not living close to central London. So central London's definitely a lot more expensive, and we probably wouldn't be able to save as much. But yeah, it really depends. London's a big place, and there's like central London, there's greater London, within the M25, outside the M25. It's a big place, big place. Buy the worst house in the best location. Yes, I always do hear that. Exactly. That's kind of also what I've sort of thought about doing, is you know, whether you just buy a house that needs renovating, and you just buy a house that's kind of on offer, you renovate it yourself, because you probably find a better deal that way. Obviously making sure that you have you know, good contractors and things like that. But yeah, could be worth it. Depends on the area of London you're going to live. Yes, exactly. The south of London used to be cheaper, I would say, after taxes, a minimum of 40k a year. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there are pockets in London, even where sort of where I'm based now at the moment, it used to be a lot cheaper than it is now. Because there's been a lot of gentrification, like house prices have just shot up. So yeah, it really depends. But obviously now people are trying to move out of London, because they realize they don't need to be in London, because, you know, most people are working from home. Well, a lot of people are working from home anyway, so, you know, that's probably going to start increasing house prices as well. And I know that even places like the north are starting to increase in terms of like house values as well, because again, people realize that they don't need to be in the central of London. So yeah. Oh yes, your house is in Spain. Oh, it'll be so interesting to see sort of yeah, when that's kind of done, when that's all renovated. You have to make sure you send me photos if you can, and things like that, because I'd be really interested to see. But yeah, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there because I think the sun is starting to come down a little bit, and I know you guys probably want to enjoy the rest of your evening as well. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I just, yeah, really hope you enjoy the rest of your week. In terms of what's, I guess, going to be coming up, make sure you check out my video on Tuesday, because if you were looking for my food budget video, I should be posting that on Tuesday. Fingers crossed. So definitely make sure you check that out. And yeah, hopefully, you know, I'll be able to start sharing like our budget videos and things like that, which I'm looking forward to doing. But yeah, oh, thank you. No, I love spending time with you guys and getting to know you a bit more. It's just always nice to see, you know, who I'm talking to, who's actually subscribed to my channel. I hope most of you are subscribed to my channel, by the way, and give this video a thumbs up whilst you're there as well, as it really does help too. Right, well, thank you guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will speak soon.